Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the head coaches press conference for the 2026 College Football Playoff Quarterfinal at the Rose Bowl game presented by Prudential. Today's press conference will start with opening statements by both coaches, followed by questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have mic runners on both sides of the room. If you are called on, please state your name and outlet before asking your question. After we finish the questions, we will have a photo opportunity with both head coaches and the Leishman Trophy. We will start with a couple seconds in front for the cameras, and then we'll have them move out of the way, and then the back can get their shot as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We have an opening statement, and we'll start with Coach Cignetti.
Thank you. Good to be here. A lot to do today. From a preparation standpoint, the last 2 days have been fairly disruptive with a travel day and then a first practice on site. So, as the leader, the head coach, I feel like there's a lot of loose ends we got to tie together today. I have a lot of respect for Alabama, obviously, Coach Deboer, similar paths in our coaching careers. And it shows up on tape. He's a great football coach, and Alabama's a great football team with a lot of good players. It'll be a tremendous challenge. We'll have to play extremely well, and looking forward to the game.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Deboer.
Yeah. First of all, just want to congratulate Coach Cignetti and Indiana on another great season. These last 2 years and what they've done is so impressive. And again, when you just like Coach said, when you're watching film, you can see why the success is happening. Well coached, disciplined, and obviously a lot of great players making great plays. And so, looking forward to the challenge. Great opportunity. Big day of prep for us as well. Just, continue to try to use the schedule that we've had in place, adapt it to, the logistics and the things that go on with the Rose Bowl. But an honor to be here. I'm proud of our football team and what we've done to get to this point and really appreciate their efforts. And we can't wait for tomorrow.
Thank you, Coach. And with that, we'll go to questions. We have one in the front here in the blue.
Thanks. Jeff RabJohnSpeaks.com. Riley Nowakowski told a story yesterday about the summer when you guys would go through workouts and then Surratt would be like, no, guys, we're doing one more. And it became Surratt, then Cooper, then the receivers, and it kind of grew. He said Fernando got into it. Just what did you think when you heard about that, and what does that mentality say about the approach of your players?
Well, that's the first I've heard of it. And but I think that's reflective of guys wanting to pay the price to be the best they can be and pushing themselves. Understanding it, it takes a little bit more to be the best. There's good and there's great, and what does it take to be great? It takes a special discipline, work ethic, and focus. And, those are guys trying to find the edge and improve every single day.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have one here on our left in the blue shirt.
Hello. Scott Docterman with The Athletic. Both of you came up through the smaller school ranks as head coaches. What did you learn on those experiences, and how do you apply that now to both the success that you're enjoying in your current roles, but also in how you build a team and build a cohesiveness with the players and staff?
Go ahead. Well, I think, first of all, you have an appreciation for the resources and the things you have when you get to these levels of college football and these experiences. But I think that when you're putting it together and you're so hands-on and wearing all the different hats that come along with being a small college football coach, not even just a head coach, it really forces you to have to think outside the box, be creative, and that might be schematically, that might be how you set up your travel with limited expenses and things like that. So there's a lot, I think, that forces you to really think through. But again, it goes back to I have an appreciation for every person in our program because I know the jobs that they are all doing, and there's more to it than just a title. They're working behind the scenes, and now it just comes down to managing the volume of the staff that you have and making sure that everyone is aligned and heading the same direction. But I think the small college opportunity, not near as many people watching. There's a lot of mistakes that I made, at the small college level that you learn from and that you continue to apply as you go through, and I've been fortunate to have had 4 head coaches that I coached for after being a head coach myself, that allowed me to take a little bit bits and pieces of what they did and add it to what I thought could continue to help me as I became a head coach again.
Yeah, we were both small college head coaches. Our routes in career paths were a little different. And there's about 5 or 6 of us out there nationally that, I've followed for a while. In my particular situation, I had 28 years as an FBS assistant. 23 years old, I'm coaching at Rice, which back then was in the Southwest Conference. We played SMU before they got the death penalty. You played Texas A&M with those people every week. And then, when I went to D2, I'd come from Alabama, obviously. So for me, it was a chance to be the leader. And like Coach said, get the mistakes out of the way and improve your craft every year. But having never been at that level also, it was a culture shock. When you're dressing in the shower up at Clarion and for game day, and many other things, playing in the playoffs and universities shut down, and you're taking the garbage out before the staff meeting and waxing the staff table. Or maybe the university's changing their internet system and you don't have access to game tape until Tuesday of a Wednesday game. But it was a valuable experience, no question about it. And it was also, my parents were living there, my wife's parents were there, my wife's mother. And, but every move that I made after I left Alabama prepared me for this moment. And also prepared me for the changes that have taken place in college football since I was an assistant coach. That's where the recruiting coordinator experience came into play.
All right, we have a question in the second row.
Curt, you talk often, Tom Brew, Roundtable Sports, you talk often about being so process-driven and such, and I know when we talked the day after the Big Ten championship game, you had a plan sort of already in place for how 25 days would play out until tomorrow. How good do you feel about how that process went for these past 24 days, and if there was anything you would have changed, what that might have been?
Yeah, well, so Monday was our travel day, which was a Wednesday practice. So, as soon as we found out who our opponent was, after Alabama and Oklahoma played, the next day was a Sunday. So in my mind, every day then was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday in terms of our routine, right? So our travel day really was a Wednesday. Up until that day, I really liked where we were. I didn't think we had a great practice the travel day because, we had to move everything up. And the players, on a travel day, they're used to having a walkthrough. And then we got here, and all the bowls, I'm going to call this a bowl, since we changed locations early. We've never had a great practice, first day on site, ever, right? And it wasn't a horrible practice, but didn't meet the standard. So that's why I feel the sense of urgency, to get it right today. And to get everybody thinking, the way we want to think.
We have a question on the left side here, third row.
Yeah, Adam Rittenberg with ESPN. Curt, in talking to your coaches yesterday about what it's like to evaluate players with you, I'm wondering, when did your philosophy on what mattered in personnel kind of come to you, and how validating is it to see that approach working as well as it has for your program?
Yeah, I think, you always learn from your mistakes, or you better, or you're not going to be around. And when I first got the job as a recruiting coordinator and a coach for Johnny Majors, his second time around at Pitt, we probably took too many chances on potential. But we were in a position where we didn't have much either. We didn't have resources. We didn't have facilities. Those things mattered back then. We didn't have a lot to sell. And those were the kind of guys we got. And a lot of them didn't pan out. We had a lot of problems. And then, at NC State, we were in a little different situation. And then at Alabama, I think that part of it with Coach Saban, the ankle, knee, hip flexibility, position-specific criteria, toughness at all positions, what were the fatal flaws. I think that helped me a lot too. And then you just get better at it the more you evaluate, right? And then, when you become the head coach, like at D2, I watched every guy, right? I kind of did the board. Christmas holiday, everything's shut down, coaches are off. I'm in there watching all the guys, right? Ranking them. Just repetitions of mother learning, and you get better and better at it. And, once you become kind of the CEO and your stamp is on it, you want to be invested on who you bring through the door, coaches and players. You want to put the final stamp on them.
All right, we're going to stay on the left side here.
Kyle Bonneger with ESPN. Curt, you mentioned some of the distractions the team went through, leading up to this game. What are some tweaks you could envision that would help limit those in the future and kind of as this playoff format evolves?
Well, I think it changes next year. I don't know for certain. I've been told it does. The contract, college football playoff. Hey, I mean, let's face it. This playoff game. It's a football game, right? And I think both teams would like to be able to kind of go through their routine and process like they do for every football game, and not have this disruption. But it is what it is, and we made the best of it, and we both had to go through it. And I think next year, if I'm not mistaken, the contract reads a little different.
We're going to go to the middle here, about halfway back.
Nick Kelly with AL.com. Question for Coach Deboer. Coach Cignetti was talking about practice yesterday. What was your assessment about how the guys did in that first practice, kind of after all the travel?
Yeah, I thought there was good energy, and that's what I really look for. There was stress in communication and just all of that. And I thought they came with the right intention. Doesn't mean it was perfectly crisp. That's why you practice, and just always trying to get better. And so continue to refine the game plan and pay attention to the details. I had guys in this morning, already asking about certain things, just trying to make sure that they're completely on the same page with what we're trying to do. And so, I have an appreciation for our players and the intentions they have. And so, we got to take the next step today. We talk about the hours leading up to kickoff, and yesterday would have been about 48 hours out, and we know how important those 48 hours, whether it's preparation, on the football field or the nutrition, the sleep, and all of that. And so just all these guys doing the best they can to make sure that they're ready to go tomorrow.
We're going to stay in the middle here in the green.
Hi, Lane Higgins from the Wall Street Journal. This one is for you, Coach Cignetti. You've mentioned many, many times that you look for hip, ankle, and knee mobility in players, and I'm curious why that's so important to you. And it sounds like you got that maybe from Coach Saban, and why was that something that you decided to carry on from your time at Alabama?
Yeah, well, it's a start-stop game, and you got to have those for change of direction, but you also need those to create explosive power. So, it's a game of speed, quickness, and explosive power, and you need those things to generate that.
And we have a question on the right, 3 rows back.
Katie Wyndham from Bama Central. For Coach Deboer, you had talked before Oklahoma that y'all really kind of nailed down a system that y'all like for road games leading up to a game that works best for y'all. Just kind of how is that being affected this week with kind of a different schedule?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly different because you would have traveled normally today. And so, but you just adjust, like Coach said, you just adjust to what it is and make the most of it.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have one on the right side by the wall.
Connor McGlynn, Rose Bowl game. Both coaches, you mentioned how with the playoff system, there is an end goal past this game, but with both of you leading teams that have legacies in this game, personally, how does it feel to be part of a Rose Bowl?
I'll go first. The Rose Bowl has a lot of tradition. I can remember as a little kid watching Sam Bam Cunningham jump over the goal line right back in the early 70s, I think it was, for USC. But this is a playoff game. We're playing at the Rose Bowl. We played UCLA last year at the Rose Bowl. And I respect the tradition of the Rose Bowl. Been a lot of great players, coaches playing it. Getting ready to play a playoff game.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of how our guys are looking at it. This is the next round of the playoffs, and we were in win or go home kind of mindset a few weeks ago, and that's where this is at. You certainly do appreciate what the Rose Bowl game has been about, over the years, and watching it over, when I was a kid, high school. I can remember, in college watching it as well, and just envisioning what it would be like to play in that game. Here we are. And so, but, for us, it is, I think probably the playoff piece is, above and beyond, and added to, I guess, the whole, Rose Bowl vibe and Rose Bowl feel. So, again, we got to play our best football. There isn't another day.
All right, we're going to go to the middle here, about 3 rows back.
Ashley Adamson, Big Ten Network. This is for both of you. Obviously, as head coaches, you're great teachers. I'd be curious what you both have learned from your respective teams this year.
I've learned that, something I've asked of our guys is that, they always think about that they have more in them. And we went back to really the second week, and different things, quotes or whatever it was, and just really a mindset that you got more in you. You can practice and bring more. And, I always relate that to me too. I got more in me. And, I think our team really took that on. And whether it's the effort that they give in practice, because nowadays you can track that. You can track it with GPSs and such. And, us seeing that we got more in us. We're stronger now physically than we were at any other time during the year. We practice, faster as a team than we did at any time of the year. And so, you got more in you when it comes to note taking. You got more in you when it comes to just the attention to detail. And so, I guess whether I learned that from our team or just really, they learned that about who we can be and appreciate who we can be. That's what I love about the journey we've been on as a football team. And there's been some highs and lows. We got some games where we came up short, and just really getting back to the basics, that we got more in us, and what we control moving forward is our attitude. And that's helped us get over the hurdles, get over the humps, and continue on to get to the point where we're at today.
What I learned about this team is they have a lot of character, a lot of heart, and they're extremely close.
All right, we have a question along the wall.
Hey, Curt, Pete DePremio, IU Athletics. With Mike Shanahan, what was it about him? What attributes did he have that made you want to hire him in the first place? And then how has he evolved as an offensive coordinator?
Yeah, well, I think Mike was with me only my last year at IUP, which would have been 16. He had been a graduate assistant at Pitt the year before, maybe 2 years. Was a good player at Pitt. And I needed a receiver guy, and it was technically a part-time position, so it probably only paid like $10,000. So it's not like there's a lot of candidates. I think the other candidate was from Johns Hopkins. And I knew Mike. He was a Western PA guy, and he came in for the interview and he was nervous. And but a lot of the other coaches had name familiarity. His father had played basketball at IUP. A lot of people thought highly of him in the Western PA area, and so we hired Mike, and he did a good job, did a really good job. And I was working closely with the offense as well at that year. And when Elon called and I decided to take that job, he was the first guy I took, and Haynes was the second call. And then Mike just progressed every single year. So when I went to Elon, I hired a coordinator, Drew Fulmer. And then when I went to JMU, I hired a Shane Montgomery. And then year 3, I made a change. And Mike wanted to be the coordinator. He'd been with me by that time maybe 6 years. Normally, I'd gone outside and hired a quarterback guy to be my coordinator. And that was my intention when the job was open. And he came to me, and he had a really good friend, Tino Sinceri, that was Sark's right-hand man at Alabama. And I had spent the whole year, I think that was COVID year, in the fall watching Alabama's offense and liked what they were doing throwing the ball and felt like we needed some new ideas. When that came together, that allowed me to hire Mike at that time as the coordinator, because I'm still heavily involved offensively. And we had a good quarterback guy, and we had some new ideas, and Mike could put it all together. And Mike's just gotten better every single year, where, he's very capable of going and taking it and running with it at any level, anywhere, and I feel very fortunate to have him.
We have a question on the left side in the middle.
Curt Cignetti, Chris Hagan, Fox 59, Indianapolis. You've stacked one success upon another year after year after year, and then you went into great detail of what you've had to do the past 3.5 weeks. Is that just the nature of the beast, given this profession nowadays? You can literally never stop and smell the roses?
You get a few minutes maybe after the game in the coach's room or when you go home for home games, and then you get the summer. You get about 3.5 weeks in the summer. I take a little time, take about a week after the old traditional signing date in February. But it's a grind, and you got to love the process. And that includes being organized and detailed. And for me, I'm a football guy. And I'm thankful that my athletic director, Scott Dolson, structures it so I can focus on football and not all the other stuff. And I'm also thankful that Pam Whitten, our president, and Scott Dolson provide the funds which you need to be successful in the critical areas of program development. And, I like football. And football is all about recruiting, development, and retention. But I like the X's and O part of it, the strategy, the game day strategy, and putting a team together every year. Those are the things I like.
We have time for just a couple more questions. We'll start with the green shirt in the front row here.
Seth Tao, the Daily Hoosier. Curt, given the long build up to this game, this is maybe the biggest test you've faced as far as your approach to, fighting human nature, blocking out the noise, and keeping everybody locked in. Just how have you approached that challenge the last 3 weeks or so, and how have your guys responded to that messaging?
You mean the biggest challenge since the last biggest challenge? Which was the biggest challenge since the last biggest challenge? It's all it is this challenge. Right. So, we had quite a bit of time before we knew who our opponent was after our last game, and which was about 2.5 weeks. So up until that point, we treated that like an off week. It was about 2 weeks. And so, we got a couple practices in, rest, recovery, a lot of weight room work, that kind of thing. We really didn't spend any time on Alabama or Oklahoma. I didn't want to. We made that mistake last year. And player retention was huge, coaches' retention, portal evaluation. Once we found out who the opponent was, the next day was Sunday, next day was Monday, and leading up till today.
We'll go to the left side here, a couple rows back.
Emily Grace McCord with Cover Crimson. This is for both of you guys. This time of year, a lot of football has been played, but there's still a lot to go to reach your ultimate goal. How would you guys put to words the grind that takes place on your team, your staff members, that we just don't see as media members? What would you describe that as and put that to words?
Okay. One thing I've always tried to do is manage the grind a little bit and be efficient in everything we do. I'm a short practice guy. I want to keep the players fresh, keep them healthy. I'm the same way with the coaches. I'm very cognizant of their family time, their free time. I think everybody needs time to kind of get away and recalibrate. So this business, you gotta love it. My dad told me at a very young age, only go in it if you can't live without it, and I think that was good advice. And but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I think my assistant coaches would say the same thing. And but there is a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, Christmas was better because we were still playing, right? And it comes on you. I didn't even, I did a poor job of doing my Christmas shopping for my family. I can tell you that. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And this is what you work all year for. This is what you started in January. For us, January 13th, 14th, and that date, those dates, these were the moments that we were kind of setting our sights on and why we were doing the work. And so now that it's here and that we're in it, we have to remember that and not get caught up in the word grind and love it, make it positive, because that's what it is. And we have, again, a great challenge, but a great opportunity, something that I know we better be excited for. I know we are, and looking forward to.
All right, we'll go with the second row here on the right.
Tom Brew, Roundtable Sports. Kalen, one of the most difficult things in sports is replacing a legend, and you certainly had to do that at Alabama. But he also has such this aura over Tuscaloosa still, and he's on national TV every week. Can you just talk a little bit about what your conversations with Coach Saban have been like in your time with him in the last couple of years, and what, if anything, you've gained from that or culled from that to keep going forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I have an appreciation for Coach Saban, and it was very easy for me to understand what his take was going to be on it, or how he wanted this to continue on. And just think about it, he put all this time into this program to make it what it is. And to me, the legacy continues when the program continues to grow and improve and be better, even when you're done. And I think that's the way he's always been. When he's there, whenever you need him, I know he has his way with the media and how he's got to handle things, with different teams and such. But I know that he's still rooting for, the Crimson Tide, and there's a lot of players on our team that he still recruited and brought in, and he cares about them, and just wants to see them be successful and realize the dreams and the goals that they had when they first committed to coming to Alabama. So just trying to carry on the legacy of not just Coach Saban, but all the great coaches, all the great players that came here to make this place what it is. And so we play for that. We play for the program to make it better for those that come after us too.
All right, we got last two questions. We'll start with the one in the second row here.
Hey, Kalen, Davis Baker, WSFA in Montgomery. Feels like you guys are embracing a little bit of an underdog role this week. Ty said that nobody expected you guys to be here. I'm just curious, what do you want your team's mindset to be going up against the number one team in the country?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Coach and Indiana certainly deserve what they've where they're ranked. I mean, there's a 0 at the end of their record right now, and so no one's beat them. And for us, I think we've kind of had this edge about us because of the ups and downs that I referred to earlier of how the season has gone. And when we have an edge to us, it seems like that and that edge can come in a lot of different ways. But our guys have done a good job having a confidence, but also feeding off the people that maybe doubt what we're capable of. And so in the end, it still goes back to what our day-to-day attitude is, what our effort is, what we're trying to do in our process of getting to being our best on game day. So, I think the guys certainly have embraced and fed into anything that they see or hear. They kind of add and throw it on a text thread and things like that, and you want to use it to fuel the fire. And so, in the end, it's got to be internal motivation though that really kind of gets you to the point where you are competing day in and day out and trying to be your best.
All right, we'll have our last question in the back left here.
Good morning, coaches. With the coming rain tomorrow, what is your plan as far as ball control and all the elements that come with the wet weather?
I think you just got to kind of see what it is in the moment. I know it could be heavy at times. I don't know. You could be light. You just have to adjust. And we haven't played a lot in those elements this season. You try to prepare and practice with a wet ball and things like that. Whether it's snapping the football, catching the football, throwing it, whatever it is. But in the end, we just got to adapt. And we talk about those things. On the staff, whether it's offense or defense, it kind of affects how you go about. But obviously, ball security and turnovers are something that I think everyone would acknowledge would be critical when the factors could be rain like it looks to be. So you just got to adapt and been part of a lot of rain and games where there's bad weather. So just do our best when that time comes to kind of help our guys get through it and be successful.
Yeah, like Coach said, adjust, adapt, improvise. If it's a deluge, that's one thing. I don't expect that tomorrow, and I don't expect it to be a real critical factor in the game, and I don't see it changing our game plan very much.
Alrighty, thank you, coaches.
You bet.
We will go ahead and get a quick picture, photo opportunity with the coaches with the trophy. We're going to start with the photographers in the front, so you guys can stand up and get the shot. Yeah, maybe a handshake or something. All right, just a few more seconds here, and then we'll get you guys out of the way so the cameras in the back can get the shot. Alrighty, if we can have the photographers move out of the way so the cameras in the back can get the shot. All right, that's good. Thank you, coaches. You are good to go.